Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest you know from her acclaimed role on the beloved series Weeds, her breakthrough role in the classic Big, and now you can see Elizabeth Perkins as a boozy Southern woman with secrets in the new HBO drama Sharp Objects. Take a look.
Come on, sweetie. Saved you a place. Get your cute little butt in here. Oh, good Lord. I don't think I've seen you in a month of Sundays.
You saw me at the search, Jackie.
I didn't really see you. See that sweet tea and its kick.
Please tell me y'all aren't waiting on us.
Well, we weren't waiting for the pastor, that's for sure. You look great. I don't know what I expected. You look absolutely...
Jackie, inside voice. It's funeral.
You look great.
Everybody, please welcome Elizabeth Perkins. Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on Sharp Objects.
Thanks. It's dark.
Yeah, but it must have,
Yeah.
it's so cool. It's one of the few things that is really celebratory of the process while you're watching it. You get to see the actors working, you get to see everyone's doing their best work, and the whole show, while about the story, is also very much about celebrating the work of everybody, which is great.
It was a real challenging shoot. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. It was, we had no rehearsal, we had no blocking, we had no lights. You never knew where the camera was gonna be. It was completely organic, and it was unlike anything I've ever done before.
Now, that's kind of the way that JeanMarc Vallee works, the director. Does he tell you that that's how he's going to work when he casts you, or do you go watch maybe
He doesn't tell you anything. Luckily, I knew somebody who had worked with him before, and they're like, look, just be prepared. There are no lights. You will not block. And it was the first couple of weeks as an actor, you feel like you're resisting that because it's not what you've ever done before. And then you finally give into it, and it's incredibly freeing when you do.
There has to be, as much as there's no blocking, I mean, even in the midst of him, what feels like spontaneously pulling great shots out of everything, there does seem to be moments where information has to be conveyed via blocking.
Oh, absolutely.
So does he eventually kind of like let you roam and then pull you in?
Absolutely. He wants you to roam as far away as you can possibly get. And usually people remind him, well, we have to get this piece of information in there. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, let's get that. But he knows exactly what he's doing. You would think, okay, well, he's just off on some tangent, but he knows every moment that he's getting. And it's like watching an artist paint.
Really?
Yeah, it's because he's completely inspired by the moments. If there's a smell in the area or a sound or a taste or a whisper that he hears or something one of the extras said or the temperature of the day, he's inspired by all of that. And so then he has to bring that in, and it's reflected in the moment. And there's something really inspiring about working with somebody who's that in touch with what's going on in the moment.
Well, there's also, when you're working with actors as good as these, you, Patricia Clarkson, Amy Adams, who's maybe the best.
She's amazing in this.
Yeah, I embarrassed myself in front of her yesterday when she came in. I just said, I want you to know you're my favorite.
Hail, right?
Yeah.
Like
That's my opinion about her. I don't think there's an actress working right now who's had as many good performances back to back.
Oh, she was amazing in Arrival. Like her performance in Arrival, I think was really overlooked.
Oh, I agree.
But her performance in this is just stripped down. She just stripped it right down.
Yeah, and she does this thing with her voice that is very subtle, but she's speaking in an extremely low register. The whole character is about her body, so she's constantly kind of contorting herself inwards, but it's never calling attention to itself. It's actually quite subtle, and you have to pay close attention to kind of find what she's doing.
No, we were all on board. Like I said, there was an adjustment that we all had to make because we've all been doing this a really long time, and we're sort of used to the way filmmaking goes. You hit your marks, you say your lines, there's the camera, there's the lights.
Turning around.
Now we're doing a 2-shot, now we're doing a master. So it was an adjustment. And like I said, there was a little bit of, no, I don't want to do it like that. And then once we all sort of gave in, we had the time of our lives.
Does it change your performance, you think?
Absolutely.
In what way?
It strips you down. You know, it takes you, catches you off guard. And what comes out of being caught off guard is purely organic. And, you know, as an actor, you're used to sort of being in charge of your performance. And you're not when you're that stripped down.
Well, but at the same time, you are still maybe even more in charge of your performance than usual. But what's going on
not in
is,
the way that you're used to being.
right. You're only in charge of your performance at this moment. You're not in
exactly.
charge of anything else.
Exactly. And JeanMarc pushes you to places that you least expect it. And he'll catch you off guard in a moment that you end up being really grateful for. But at the moment, you're like, well, wait, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And what ends up coming out is really, really organic stuff.
Right. He's sitting there going, go, 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 we're rolling. And
Rolling,
you're like,
like, you're like, wait, I was just getting a drink of water. He's like, you know, I want that. I want to see you do that. So he's an auteur,
yeah.
pure and simple.
Do you feel like you've worked with auteurs before?
Not like this.
Really?
Not like this, no.
And is the main difference for you, outside of the specifics that he does, what do you think the main difference is on your performance and how you approach performance when you're working with someone like that?
I think the main difference is that actors tend to have a pre-planned idea. You know, you're sort of sitting in your room at night going, yeah, and then that, and then there's this, and then maybe I'll go over there, and I'll do that. And then you arrive on the set with JeanMarc, and it's like, no, none of that exists.
That's to get you in the moment.
Absolutely.
Because acting is supposed to be reactive and in the moment.
Absolutely.
But it's impossible for actors to not think about how the thing is going to go.
Completely. Because, you know, you're building a character, and you're building a moment, and you're thinking about the scene, and, like, where you want it to go, and, like, what you're trying to accomplish here, and that's just completely taken away from you.
And also, most scenes are like arguments. So, like, if you're thinking about an argument you're going to have tomorrow, you're thinking about how that argument's going to go.
Absolutely.
How they're going to respond to the thing that you really want to say.
Exactly. And he just strips that away from you the minute you arrive on the set. So it's a little unnerving, but ultimately it's the bottom line. It's all from in the moment. And it's a little startling. You know.
Can I ask, without any spoilers, what your toughest scene to shoot within this style was?
I think the prison. I don't want to give away too much, but there's a moment in a prison that was completely organic.
Wow.
That sort of threw us. You know, like we didn't know what each other were going to do. I don't want to say who's in the prison.
No, of course not. Of course not.
But we had no idea what the other person was going to do. Yeah. And that was a little startling. Yeah. You know, we played around with it all day and tried different things. But like the first couple of shots, we just didn't know what was going to happen.
As much as he doesn't rehearse, and we'll move on from JeanMarc Vallee. We've made this entire interview.
No. I loved it. I loved talking about it.
But I'm curious, you know, as someone who if he's just sort of collecting footage sort of and allowing the actors to move around and then maybe reeling them in, is there still moments of talking about what the scene is beforehand with him? No. So he doesn't even have a moment beforehand of like, well, I think the intention of your character in the scene is to be like this?
No. That comes after.
After you shoot.
After you shoot. And
when you go back,
when you go back in to get the stuff that you have to tell the story.
Oh, I see.
But initially, no. It's just like, let's just throw this against the wall and see what happens. And there's something really dangerous about that, and there's something very unclear, and there's something
it's capturing
scary.
The mistakes.
It's absolutely capturing the mistakes.
Because then when you get in the editing room...
But he loves what mistakes, because he says real life runs on mistakes. real life doesn't happen smoothly with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's all sort of disjointed and, oh, maybe you didn't remember your line, but people don't talk like they remember their lines anyway. So there's something about it that is seriously more organic than anything I've ever done before.
It's so interesting. I think the best directors, even when they're not as sort of clearly roaming and exploring and figuring things out, will say that the best thing that you want from your actor is a mistake a lot of the time.
Well, he won't even say, okay, you come in that door and there's no blocking. So you arrive on the set and it's purely organic. Like, well, where do you think you'd come from? Well, then start over there. You know, and you're, wait, but you need to tell me what to do. You're a director. Right. He's like, let's just start from scratch. And then he'll go back in and say, okay, well, we sort of need to tell this point, and we need this point, and we need that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, now we'll do this based on the beginning that is organic.
How do you, as a director, not make sure that the actor, when you go back in and say, now we have to do this, doesn't go, well, why didn't we just do that before?
We would say that.
Really? No, I'm curious because that's one of those things
Right.
that directors
Because
want to
because I wanted to
experiment,
see what
they
you were
wanna
going to do.
try,
I want to
and
see what you're going to come up with. I want to see, you know, this in its bare bones before we put these sort of trappings on it of what we need to get. And what would evolve out of that was what you would least expect. So the whole show is just these moments of what you would least expect. It was really an experience.
Was Penny
for all of
Marshall
us.
like this on Big?
No, not at all. Like I said, this was unlike anything I've ever shot before. I think all the actors felt that way.
Do you want to do it again? Would
Yes.
you want to work like that again?
Absolutely. I think I may have but see, now I'd be prepared for it. And that's exactly what he hates. He hates anybody being prepared. He
that's
just
true.
really wants it to come.
He doesn't really work with the same actors like again and again. He's not the type of auteur who has like a bank of actors he's of working with again and
There
again.
were a lot of people who were really put off by his style. I'll be honest. Yeah, at first you're sort of like, what the heck is going on? And then once you give into it, like I said, it just opens you up. But you have to be into that experience. I'm not sure everybody was into that experience.
How did you like playing a kind of Tennessee Williams-ish character? Sort of
I
like
had a ball with her.
boozy
She's
Southern
completely
woman.
outrageous. You know, she's completely... Well, but Jackie's hiding a lot of secrets. And Jackie sort of knows everything that's gone on in town. She knows everything that's gone on in Adora's house. She knows about Camille's entire childhood. She knows what happened to her sister. You know, Jackie's sitting on a lot of knowledge that she's not either allowed to share or prepared to share.
Well, allowed, most likely because Adora runs the town, essentially, with the farm.
And Jackie has a huge past with Adora. That's never really explained, it's just implied.
So she stays drunk.
Absolutely. She doesn't have really any way to keep all of that bottled up inside of her without taking drugs and alcohol. And as many drugs as she can secure.
Did you read the book before starting to shoot?
Yes. Jackie's a little different in the book. She's sort of described as this, when you first meet Jackie in the book, she's just had a facelift. So I said to JeanMarc, do I have to have a facelift? Do I have an excuse to have a facelift? Which I would never do anyway.
You guys gonna pay for my facelift?
No, I'm just not a facelift person. But he goes, no, we're gonna drop that because it's just too like broad and ugly. Like in the book, she sort of described it. She still has bandages on her face when you meet Jackie in the middle of a search party, having had a facelift. So
it works in a book. On the
it works
screen,
in a book,
it would
but on
be like,
screen it was just too distracting.
right.
So
almost satirical at that point.
exactly. Yeah. So we toned her down a little bit, and even in the show, she's very broad and really out there and smoking and just kind of a great fun character. On some levels, I think she is the comic relief, or she is the nice person. She's the motherly one. She's the accessible one. She's
totally
the
complicit.
fun one. Yeah. Yeah.
Like she's
completely complicit.
She's like within this world, maybe the good one, but at the same time, not just as evil because of her complicity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And when Camille, well, I don't want to give away too much.
I hope I didn't just give away anything. Sorry.
Her relationship with Camille is a motherly one. You know, Camille is definitely the daughter that, you know, Jackie never had. But ultimately, she turns on her.
Well, Camille also...
because of her complicitness.
Yeah, and also Camille also needed a real mom for so much of her past.
Yeah.
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 Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's a question? I hope we didn't spoil anything.
I hope I didn't spoil anything either. I don't think I did.
Well, the book is out there. The book
is out. It's not like,
So your description of the show sounds just terribly unstructured. I'm interested to see how that turns out. But
yes.
Your training is in classical theater, which seems maybe very structured because you've done film and TV. Which of those is the most structured and different from this? And would you think of getting back to theater where you started?
When we did the remake of Miracle on 34th Street, there was something extremely structured about that because we were remaking a classical film. And some of the shots, a lot of the shots in Miracle on 34th Street were taken directly beat by beat from the original. So in order to be true to that, we had to be extremely structured. I loved making Miracle on 34th Street. There was something really old school about it. You know, we were still shooting on film, and, you know, we were hearkening back to the softness of film and the hairstyles and the wardrobe and Mara Wilson, and, you know, everything was just really perfect. And there was something great. For an actor, that's a huge safety net. You know, because you know what you're getting into. The minute you walk on the set, you're like, oh, it's so safe here. You know? And yet, with something like this, there's something really startling. And for somebody who's been doing this for 35 years, it was a little bit of a kick in the pants, you know? It was a little like, oh, I have to really show up. I can't just sort of, you know, rest on my laurels or know exactly what I'm getting into. And sometimes you don't want to. You know, you just want to stay in your safe zone. And this was definitely not a safe zone for any of us.
How long was the shoot for you? How long were you out of your safe zone?
About 4 months. Wow. Yeah. Almost 5, actually. Yeah.
And it took you said, a couple weeks to kind of get used to it,
Sure.
right?
It took all of us a couple of weeks. And it was so funny because when a new actor would arrive on the set, we'd be like, just so you know, this is going to be unlike. They're like, yeah. I'm like, no. Like, this is really going to be unlike anything you've ever done. Like, I remember when D.B. Sweeney showed up. Because he has a small part in it.
Yeah, I remember when he
like,
showed up in the show, and I went, D.B. Sweeney.
D.B. Sweeney. And I was like, and he was like, what? I said, just go with it. Okay. And he was like, what the fuck is going on? He was really like... I said, just go with it. Just go with it. You'll get into it in a couple of hours. And eventually people do. But it's very disconcerting at first. Wow. Definitely disconcerting.
Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Out of all the roles you've done, and you've done so much, you're amazing.
Yeah, long time, yeah.
From the rom-coms to the fun comedy ones to the something dark like this,
right.
Which do you prefer? Or, which has been like one that sticks with you that you really prefer for her to do?
Well, it's a film that a lot of people probably didn't see called Avalon. It was one of Barry Levinson's trilogy films about his childhood in Baltimore. It was me and Aidan Quinn and Armin Mueller-Stahl, Joan Plowright. Just an incredible experience because I was playing his mom. And there was something so personal about that for him. And he was such a brilliant director. He still is, but he doesn't work as much as he used to. And he had just come off of making the movie Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And
Probably afforded him a fair amount of not
exactly.
no,
he
luxury is
was
the wrong
given
word,
like a
but
ton of money to make a deeply small personal story. And we had this amazing director of photography, Alan Davio, who went on to do Bugsy and many other beautiful films. So we sort of had the world, at our fingertips, whatever we wanted. And yet we were making a small movie about a family. So we were given a lot of luxury to make a deeply personal story. And that just doesn't happen very often, where you're really just sort of given whatever you want to do.
I look at so many movies in the 90s now, 90s really and the 80s, and maybe not as deeply personal as Avalon, but even there's so many movies that are just not action movies or something. You're like, how did they afford this? You look at the shots that they are given, and you're kind of like, there's a crane shot in this scene, and there's
a shot in Avalon where they literally pan across a market that took about. There's maybe 150 extras involved.
Yeah, there was so much. I'm not to say that the 90s were better, but
costumes, and there's period cars, and took us 3 days to shoot it, and they just don't do that anymore.
No,
and
not
it was
at
all on film. It wasn't on video. So yeah, that movie was for me an amazing experience because I was playing his mom. And it was so personal to him. I think there was a shot where there was a circus going by the window, and there's like an elephant, and it was. We had all these great actors from the Yiddish theater, and it was a great experience to be involved in that.
I mean, I think of movies now that even have relatively decent-sized budgets, and they still feel so much more contained than a lot of films did at that period of time in the 80s and 90s, in the sense that there are fewer locations, there are fewer extras, there are fewer sort of shots that require a fair amount of blocking and choreography. And it's just a sad thing because you go back and watch some of these movies and they really did create a sense of myth.
Absolutely.
When it came to movies. They didn't feel cheap. They didn't, not that everything feels cheap now, but they really felt like.
Well, we didn't have any special effects. Everything was, old school, basically. And you can see it. You can feel it. You can experience it. And
There's more wonder.
I missed it. Yeah.
There's more wonder
I do
when
miss
you
it
watch
a little
movies.
bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I found one more.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, since you've worked on cable for Weeds, on this show, since it's such a limited series, did it hinder your performance at all, or did it kind of, broaden it for you?
No, because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to it. It's almost like doing a mini-series as opposed to a series. I mean, with something like Weeds, we knew that was going to go on, and we're going to be in suburbia for a couple of years, and this is going to grow and evolve. But with this, particularly since it was taken from a novel, you sort of know the story. You know where you're headed. You know who did it. You know the town and the people, and so there was a sense of we know where we're headed. And like I said, there's a beginning and a middle and end to it. So I enjoyed that. I loved it.
Elizabeth, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks for having
show
me.
was so great. It premieres next
Thank
Sunday
you.
on HBO, right?
Yeah,
Sharp
looking forward
Objects.
to it.
And watch it. It's amazing, and there's nothing
really
else
is.
like it on television.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Elizabeth
I
Perkins,
agree.
everybody. Let's
Thanks,
hear it.
you guys. Thanks for having me.